Michael's on the track. Okay, I really wanted to wear these glasses because I'm obsessed with them, but I fear the glare might be too much. Hey guys, my name is Quori-Tyler, aka QT, and today we're going to be going over the 7 books I read in February. Problem is I always stack the books from the book I read first to the book I read last on top, but that just doesn't work for the way the video is set up because I need to talk about the first book first. So the first book I finished in February was The 22 Immutable Laws of Branding. I actually read this for work. I work in digital marketing, and so we did like a little book club within the marketing department at my job, where we all would like read a chapter and then present on that chapter, come up with new ideas for marketing for the brand, and it was really fun. I definitely recommend starting a book club at your job and read a book that relates to whatever field you're in. This one was cool because it talked all about branding and it brought up a lot of like big businesses and brands that you're able to like connect the dots for. The only thing I'll say about this that I didn't love is that it was written in the early 2000s. So a lot of stuff was like, the internet is this brand new thing and this is how you can use the internet for your brand, which still kind of relates to today, but things have just like skyrocketed so much. Like we have so much new technology and stuff. So that's the only thing, is that it was written a long time ago and it hasn't been updated. But overall, it's a good book because it shows that like the brands they're talking about now that were big in the early 2000s are still big to this day. And it's like, what did they do to maintain that? And this book kind of tells you. So I really recommend this book if you're into branding or marketing. Even if you're just a content creator, I honestly recommend this book for branding because you are your own brand. So I feel like a lot of people can get a lot of use out of this book. Next book I finished in literally a day. I actually finished it within the span of 2 days. I was on a flight to Orlando in the beginning of the month, and on my flight there, it was like a 4-hour flight. I read half of the book, and then my flight back was 5 hours, and I finished the other half. But it's Powerless by Elsie. This is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Springs series. Favorite book, 5 stars, so freaking good. I'm so obsessed with Jasper and Sloane. Like I can't even tell you, the dynamic of their friendship that turns into a romance is like so beautiful. I love a friends to lovers more than anything. This was that. And it was done perfectly. Like they were childhood friends. She always had a crush on him. He never gave it the time of day. And then finally, like, it's like right place, right time. They get together and realize that like it's always been each other. Oh my that shit's so good. And she's a ballerina, he's a hockey player, but honestly, like we didn't get bogged down into the details of that. That's sometimes I hate when we have like a hockey romance trope because sometimes it feels like it's like a little too hockey, and especially with her being a ballerina, I felt like it would be too ballerina. But no, it was very, and I'm a dancer, so I would love that, but it was like palatable. I haven't even continued the series yet because like this one was so good. I feel like everything else is going to be a letdown, but I hear Reckless is really good, so I'm excited to get to the next one. But yeah, this one, 10 out of 10, like so good. I want to reread this. I love Friends to Lovers. Okay, next book I read, I kind of forgot that I read this. Like every time I was going through my head of like, what are all the books I read in February? I always left this one out, but I don't know why, because I did really enjoy it during the time that I was reading it. It's 5 Years From Now by Paige Toon. I think I might have gotten this in an airport. I don't know. The cover just like stood out to me and I liked the cover. I liked what was on the back of the book, and so I wanted to read it, and it was a pretty short book. I've been into reading like short reads. Like I need to like get in and get out. I think it's because sometimes I read such big books that it's like after I read a huge book, I need like some short ones to get me through. It's kind of giving like Every Summer After meets Before We Were Strangers a little bit. Very much Every Summer After in the sense of like you're going past and present timeline. Not even past and present. You're actually going, every section of the book is 5 years later. So you start when they're 5 years old, 10 years old, 15, 20, 25, 30. I think you go all the way until 35 or 40, something like that. So you know what it reminds me of? Normal People, and I liked this better than Normal People. So you're seeing like the transitions of these two characters' lives and the ebbs and flows of their relationship, and like, do they end up together, do they not end up together? By the end of this, you really felt like you knew these two people and you understood the decisions that they were making. So I highly recommend this one if you're looking for just like a quick read, something that's going to keep you interested. There's also a lot of, it's not plot twists, but there's a lot of like shocking things that happen like throughout each part of the book. So it definitely keeps you interested, and you're like, wait, what just happened? And then it makes you want to read on and read. Even though I feel like this book is a little bit forgettable, it honestly was good while I was reading it. Okay, this is an interesting one. The next book I read was Cricut Kingdom, and it's a thick one. This took me a while to read. I was also listening to an audiobook at the same timeline of reading this because I needed something else. This one was interesting to me. Everyone said like 6 stars. Oh my gosh, it's so good, blah, 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 blah. I honestly only read the first book in the series, 6 of Crows, to get to this book because everyone says how much they love this book specifically. I don't necessarily understand the hype. I think it's a great book. It was phenomenal. I loved being in this world. I loved the found family. I loved the characters. But nothing about it was like, oh my gosh, that's the best book ever. I didn't cry about anything. I wasn't like torn up. Like, I don't know. There's just like nothing that made me feel like, oh my gosh, everyone needs to read this book. But it was a good book. I just don't know, like, would I do it again? Would I go through this big Six of Crows book just to get to this big Cricut Kingdom book for what the ending was? I don't think so. I'm happy I read it to know what the hype was about, but I wouldn't do it again. It's fantasy, but they're like real people, question mark? Like, I don't think they're like fairy kind of thing. But in a fantasy book, I love romance. Like, I love romantasy, really. And this one had romance, don't get me wrong. But it was a sub plot. Like, you really had to, like, pull and, like, read in between the lines to get the romance. And I love when the romance is, like, so apparent. But I did enjoy the ending of this book. It just wasn't something that made me feel like, oh my gosh, everyone needs to pick this book up. So I felt pretty mad about it, honestly. Up next, this is the book that I listened to mostly on audiobook. And it was a beautiful audiobook listen. I have really been into audiobooks and listening as I drive to work and home, sometimes in the car for such long times, and I feel like it's perfect timing to get some reading done. I used to feel like listening to audiobooks meant that you weren't really reading and I didn't count towards my reading goal, but honestly it does. And especially if you're like reading a little bit of the book, listening to the audiobook, like going back and forth. But I loved this one. It was such a cute contemporary romance. It was enemies to lovers, but this is like how you should do an enemies to lovers. Sometimes I feel like with enemies to lovers, you don't understand why these people are even connecting because they hate each other so much. In this one, you fully understand. Like, you just get it. These two characters like belong together. You want them to be together even though they're pretending to hate each other. Well, they're not pretending, but you know what I mean. It was a good listen. I really enjoyed the narrator of this one. And yeah, I liked it. You with a View. So cute. And everyone's been talking about it on TikTok, so I'm happy that I'm like part of the crowd. What I liked about this book is that it wasn't just romance. We get some other subplots that really make you feel like you're reading like a whole book. Her grandma had just died and she found some letters that the grandma wrote to an ex-lover of hers that this girl had never heard about. So then she ends up going on a journey to figure that out. And it was just so interesting. Like, I loved the whole scope of things. Like, it felt like you were reading kind of two different stories within one. Her grandmother's story and then her actual story. And it all comes together in the end beautifully. Next book I'm going to talk about, I listened to solely on audiobook, and it's Five Survive by, what's her name? By Holly Jackson. It was such a good read. I loved A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, so this was a nice like follow-up to that. I don't think it was as good as A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but I did really enjoy it. The ending really did throw me for a loop. I did not expect that, but I personally never guess the ending of mystery thrillers, so that's not a surprise to me. I'm someone, if you know me, I get very scared very easily. And so I don't love mystery thrillers all the time. I feel like I always have to like read them during the day, or it's hard for me to listen to them because then it just feels too real. But because this is a YA book, it felt more palatable for me to listen to. So the span of the storyline takes place in one day. And so every chapter is like a different hour. So it's like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. by the time you get to the end of the book. So going into the book, you know that there's 6 people going on a road trip, but only 5 survive. It's literally like the title of the book. You're just trying to figure out who's gonna die, what's going on. Everyone has secrets that end up coming out. I liked that. I liked that there wasn't just one big secret that comes out at the end. It was like everyone had their own little secrets. That way, throughout the book, you're kind of like getting little nuggets of things that keep you invested in the story. I really liked it. It was a great book, a great listen. If you have any recommendations for more audiobooks for me to listen to, let me know what a good one will be. Listening to Five Survive on audiobook was a recommendation from one of my followers on Instagram, so shout out you. I appreciate you. Okay, last book that I read for the month was Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. If you know me, you know I'm a Rebecca Searle stan to the day I die. I'm obsessed with In 5 Years. I love The Dinner List. Like, obsessed with Rebecca Searle. The only book I didn't love from her was One Italian Summer. I think it's because I love my mom too much and it's about like grieving your mom, so I simply couldn't do it. This book I actually got as an ARC, an advanced reader's copy from Simon & Schuster. They emailed me, and it's so cool. This is my first ARC actually. They emailed me that they wanted to send me her book before it actually came out. I had this on my shelf for a while, for about a month, and I was like, it's so short. It just seems like something that like I probably won't get into. It's not going to be groundbreaking. Boy, was I wrong. This book was honestly like maybe a 6-star for me. I finished this in one single sitting in one day. It is such a fast read because like it's short and the words are pretty big on the paper. It's beautifully written. It feels like you're reading like lyrics to a song. Oh my gosh, like Rebecca Serle really put her foot into this one. So this one has a little bit of magical realism. If that's not something you're into, then you probably won't be into this book. But honestly, it's such a small little part of the book that still give it a chance, I would say. But our main character, basically every time she goes on a date, she gets a slip of paper that says how long she's going to be dating that person. So sometimes it's 2 hours, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 2 years. So this book basically starts when she goes on a date and she gets a slip of paper that has no date or anything on it. And so she realizes that this is the person she's going to be with for the rest of her life. So we go through her like navigating that and her knowing that in her mind as she's dating this person that doesn't know that they're going to be soulmates forever. And then we go through the other relationships she's had. And so like sometimes a chapter will come up and it'll say like Noah, 5 weeks, and then we go through the relationship that she went through for 5 weeks, like when she got the paper, what it said, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So it was a nice like journey you kind of take through this girl's life, through the different dates that she's had and how these expiration dates on the papers have affected her life. And then like something crazy kind of happens midway through the book and like things, your perspective just completely shifts. It was just so beautiful. I highly recommend getting this book when it comes. This is honestly one of my favorite books now. Like I'm never going to stop talking about Expiration Date. Okay, girlies, so those were the 7 books that I read in February. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you have any recommendations of what I should read for March. This was it was a pretty solid reading month. I got through a lot of popular books that I've been wanting to get through, and not all of them lived up to the hype, but overall I'm glad that I read them just so I can say. That's why I love reading popular books, because then I know that majority of other people that I talk to that read books have probably read them before. So I'm excited that I got to tackle a lot of the ones that have been on my TBR, and I'm excited for March. February was a pretty short month, so I'm pretty proud of myself for still getting 7 books in. That's my goal, is to do 7 books a month at least. So we'll see what March brings. I already started Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. It's so good. I need to like just have a set period of time though where I can just sit and binge it because I'm obsessed already. Hey, that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. Mwah.